Jeff, I know you've kind of made a home here at the Innovation Center the last few weeks with all your speaking and inspiring people.
Yeah.
We're so glad to have you here, really helping us understand what is Cornerstone content,
Yeah.
how do we use it in our brands, how do we take our content to the next level and integrate it across all of our efforts that we're doing, and then have some fun along the way. I know you have some fun activities planned. So everyone, please help me join Jeff, and we're so glad you're here.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me all right? So this is a great turnout. This is my third month in a row that I've been here. And last month wasn't very good. It was we had ice and snow and school canceled that day, and there was 5 lonely people here. And I'm like, hey man, I just need one person, right? And so I'm glad to see everybody. I called yesterday and heard that we had like 39 people already pre-registered, and I got really excited. So it's I'm just really glad to see you all. And I'm excited about talking about Cornerstone content. In fact, I'm going to talk about Cornerstone content today, and I'm going to also talk about landing pages. So I didn't know if you were here to hear about both of those, or if you just really want to talk about content, but Cornerstone content is really important, and it's very exciting, and it's 2 things I want you to take away today. One is, when we get done, I'm going to try to give you tips on how we can make you an authority, right? How we can make your website an authority so that it's recognized by your peers, and it's also recognized by search engines in Google, right? So how can you be authoritative? And then I think that one's really important. And moving forward then, the other thing that we're going to talk about will be that we're going to work on an SEO strategy. That's what Cornerstone content is an SEO strategy. And we hear about SEO all the time, don't we? Search engine optimization, the whole idea about how we get found, right? How does that all happen? So we're going to try to talk about that today. And so, but before we do that, we have to get in the holiday spirit. And so I'm a kid from the 70s. Anybody here from the 70s? Grew up in the 70s? Yeah, just you don't have to lift your arm up real high. I feel you. So there were 2 commercials that always were on in the 70s. And so I'm going to show you 2 of them, one now, one later. This first one, well, I'll show it to you, and then we can talk about it a little bit. So this has nothing to do with Cornerstone content, by the way, okay? But this one influenced me, believe it or not. Not for what it is, but. How many times have you seen this commercial?
0.
Well, you're just not old enough. So this thing's evolved like by the decade they just kept like updating Santa on a new razor, right? It looks like he got it like on a jet eventually. The razor just got more streamlined. I thought this was cool about Noelco instead of Norelco, so that was kind of a neat tie. But you know what? That was animation in the 70s that started to influence me as I went to art school in the 80s. And so that had a big influence on me because of that. I'd like to share that. So, and it seems like that thing ran for years and years and years. And so, so what is Cornerstone or flagship content? I have a bunch of notes, so I'm going to bring these along with me, okay? Anybody here have any idea what Cornerstone content is? Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, it's content that teaches something that has a specific topic and timeless.
Yes, that's good. It's about like having an expertise, right? So Cornerstone content is really important, and it should be separate from your other content. Cornerstone content, and we're going to do a little exercise today to try to figure out what your Cornerstone content might be. But Cornerstone content kind of defines who you are and what you do, which is really important. So it's like really well-written articles for Cornerstone content. Keywords. So what we're going to do today, we'll talk about some keywords that describe who you are. And then we're going to create articles. Then what you would do is you'll create articles that will reinforce those keywords. Okay? And they're called long tail. Have you ever heard of that? Long tail articles? So that becomes really important. You know, there are search engines out there and they're looking all the time. So how does it work? So long tail content. Anybody know what long tail content is? It's kind of that thing, same thing. It's like they're descriptors that are very specific about what you do. So when the search engines are out and they're looking for long tail content. They're looking for those descriptors that go beyond just one word. And so they become really important. How about SERP? These are some phrases I want to share with you as you start to look more into Cornerstone content. These are things that will come up. You guys know what this acronym means? Anybody? Search engine results page. I'm going to give you a web address later where you can go and you can look for search engine results for your keywords. And you'll be able to see what articles are being written that are tied to those keywords, like what articles are being searched, right? And that will help you and guide you as you start to develop your words and what is important. And then web crawlers. Anybody know what a web crawler is? I have this in my imagination in my head of like this spider that's walking around and stuff, you know. You guys know what web crawlers are? This is what search engines like Google, they send out. They're literally going through your website and they're searching for these key associations, like these significant keywords. They're looking for these stories that are being written, that are incorporating all those keywords. They're keeping score. They're tracking all that data. For Google, that's really important because you know why? That's how they start to determine whether or not you have authority or not. It's how consistent you are as you start to develop your keywords and your key articles. So that becomes really important. So we got these crawlers out there. So let's just pretend I have a company and I need to come up with 4 keywords, okay? And here they are. Business, marketing, finance, and SEO. So I want you guys to start kind of thinking about what your keywords might be for your organization. Competitive keywords, keywords that somehow differentiate you, but also start to define what you do, okay? They also can cover what we would consider to be key concepts. So if you have 4, let's just say 4 keywords, then you need 4 key articles, right? 4 articles that reinforce those keywords. Now you need more than that. I would recommend you'd have about 12 articles altogether. But these articles that we're talking about will reinforce and set up each of those keywords. And we'll talk a little more about like what they are, okay? In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Here's how to start a business, a step-by-step, okay? 101 ways to market your business. How to finance a business, the complete guide. SEO, go from beginner to expert. Now, what's interesting about those, some of these articles are called pillar articles. You know what pillar means? A pillar article? It's like a how-to. Those kind of articles actually do better in results from Google. So if you're trying to teach somebody something, so if you're giving advice or you're trying to do a how-to article, that's really important. So you want to mix that with what you're trying to do. So you want to have pillar articles integrated into the storytelling that you're doing, okay? very important. They perform better. There's proof that they get more readership. And also Google. Well, listen, if I'm looking to read something, we're always looking for value, aren't we? So that's how we're going to bring value to the table here, is by doing that. So, choosing your keywords. And we're talking about now, let me turn my page. Let's build a list for you guys. Have you started thinking about your keywords? I mean, as I sat here and started talking about this, I mean, they ought to come to your mind right away, do they? I mean, do they come in? You don't have to sit here and waver on it, right? Most of you know what your kind of 4 keywords might be. So if you have those 4 keywords, how can you refine those 4 words? So what I'm asking you to do is like, how can you dig deeper with those 4 words? How can you be more specific about them? Can you do that? Can you like take them deeper?
Can you modify them?
Yeah. Can you modify it? Yeah. How can you, I mean, the more precise that you can be, I think the better, and the more targeted that you can get this down to. So, we're looking for keywords that are like highly competitive, and they receive a large volume of traffic. How do you know they do? I'm going to show you. Remember I told you about the search engine? I'm going to take you to a search engine, and we can look at that kind of stuff. So when you pick your keywords, you need to test them. And you can test them on a search engine site that I'll show you here shortly. And then you can start to see what kind of articles that are being written about those keywords, right? I think this is really important. It's like if I come to your site, what am I going to learn? What am I going to know about you? So like, what is your niche? What's your niche? What is your specialty, or what sets you aside, different? And I think this is also really important as it applies to branding. And this whole thing about understanding your brand and your audiences, and then how you talk. When we talk about having a brand language, then this ties into that. The whole thing about your niche, how you position yourself. So the niche becomes really important. Okay, so write this down. This is one site. There are many sites. This is a SERP, what they call a SERP site that I was telling you about. And if you want to go to it, you can do that. Next page, I'm going to show you an example. How much time do I get anyway?
Probably cut you off at 9:15, right, Kate?
Okay. Okay, good. So if you got that down, or if you want to go look at it, I'm going to go to the next slide. So I did pull this down for you. So, and this is taking the keyword analysis for marketing. And so what this does is you can start to see some different kind of data that you can pull for it. And if you're online, you can actually, I think there's a section where it actually gives you titles of stories if you're actually on the site and looking at it. So Cornerstone content is about having keywords, 4 of them. It's about having 4 like really critical articles that support that. But you need to have 12 articles. Because what this means is that it doesn't stop. After you create those, it doesn't stop. You have to stay fresh. You have to keep adding to it. You have to also link other stories, other articles to them that relate, okay? The other thing that's really important that I want to reinforce with you is that this content needs to live separate from all your other blogs and all the other stuff that you're doing, okay? This content needs to be treated as equal as your navigation across the top of your bar. So like where you have About Us, or you have all those really key nav, it needs to be either in that bar or it needs to be above the fold on your web. You know what above the fold means? Above the fold on your home page. It needs to be there, okay? Within that section, every article written has to be about those key words. Don't put anything else in there. You hear me? Don't do it. You still have another section where you write your blogs and you create and you do all that other stuff that you want to do, the stuff that gives more personality or more human interest or more whatever that is that you want, that you're after, more storytelling. But these are more about the nuts and bolts about what your niche is, right? The whole thing about expressing and establishing your authority of what you are and what you do. Yeah.
These need to be articles that we've written, or can we pull in other experts' articles and post them?
They need to be what you've written, but you can use other articles. Now, what's wrong if you use other articles? What's wrong with that?
You don't own it.
What's that?
You don't own it.
You don't own it. What else? Because you don't own it, what's the perception? You're not the expert. That's right. We have a client. Go ahead.
How close to plagiarism can we get?
Well, what you have to do is, I'm not going to give you that advice.
Boundaries, Ron.
You know, if you pick up and use an article, it'd be nice if you gave somebody credit for it, no doubt. You know? Yes?
So for these pillar articles or the stuff, are you saying that we're supposed to do them without like our sales pitch in them?
What's that?
Without our sales pitch? Or like
No, they could have a sales pitch in them. They should. I mean, if you're writing it, I mean, you could pick up like a pillar article about how to do something that relates to one of your keywords, and you can rerun it. People do it all the time. Those.
Ron, what would be a keyword that came to mind for you?
Sold.
Sold? Give me some more context in that one.
And I'm thinking about the real estate end of it. Sold, listings, time, quick.
So maybe he could write a how-to guide on how to sell your home quick or something, quickly,
Yeah.
probably to use the right grammar, but
Yeah.
you know, like we could do something like that, and now you have that article based on your experiences, based on your customers, and you host it on your website, right?
Yeah, or your keywords could also be more specific that describe maybe the different kinds of things you sell. It could be like, you know, like there's certain real estate people that do commercial real estate. There's certain that do that do agriculture. There's some that do, you know, so maybe it's more precise, or it tries to start to educate people more about what your area of specialty is, right? All those things you were talking about are acts or things that happen from it, but that doesn't tell me what you're doing, and I need to know what you're doing. And so I think, you know, you need to hone that search a little more for those keywords. Yeah.
Well, and Ron, for example, you could write an article on how to sell your home quickly, and based on your expertise, you could explain like the different stages. Maybe one of them is that to stage your home, and then maybe at the end of the article, you could say, for more information on ways to stage your home, visit this article. And by, you know, you're not saying that you don't know how, and then you're increasing your SEO by including a link outside of your website.
Right. Yeah.
I think what can be overwhelming is I'm not a great writer.
Uh-huh.
So I've hired someone who can help edit.
That's
my
smart.
articles,
Yeah.
and it's really not that expensive.
Right. So what
She
she.
looks smarter than I am.
Peggy, you're a smarty pants.
So you know what Peggy's saying is a good idea. So let's say you're not a great writer, but you can form some thoughts, right? So what if you just form some thoughts, write some rough paragraphs, get it down for someone, get the thoughts down. It doesn't have to be refined. Just get it down, what you're wanting to get out, what's important, and then a writer or an editor who can come in and they can take that and they can articulate that for you and make it look like make you look really smart, make you look like
Amazing how many misspelled words is in, big companies'
yeah,
blogs.
especially online, because there's this new attitude, well, we'll just fix it later. Let's get it up. We'll fix it later.
I have a
Because it's a living document. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on gating content versus giving it away for free?
Good question. I've been reading a lot about how, and I'm here today because of it, about how you have to give away some things. If you want to build your brand and you want people, you have to give some value. And so you have to give away some to get more, right? Because that's part of being in a position of authority is that I can share with you information, right? And so this ability to give it away, to a degree, you have to do it. You have to do it. And that's been a change for me because I had a hard time wanting to do that. And so, but that's what I'm learning is that you have to.
That's one of the issues we had at Belgium. We'd write blogs and then we'd want to give them to our channel partners so that they could utilize them because then it makes us a thought leader in the industry. The problem was the more times we gave it out, our SEO went down and down and down because it almost becomes like it's now just a vanilla statement across the web.
Yeah.
And so what we started to do is we may develop, let's say 1,000 words. We would just pick out maybe excerpts and provide those and with the link, because if we provided the entire data, then we lost our, what do you call it, being the authority on it.
Being the
So
authority.
you were saying you were basically like, hey, copy and paste this article, put it on your site. Copy and paste this article, put it on your site. And then that was making it go down.
Right.
So now you'd say maybe these two people get this paragraph and these two people get
Right.
this section.
Yeah, because we'd write a blog, and because we spent, in 2017, all we really focused on was SEO. This is so important for us, even in our success, and it's one of the cheapest things that we can do. And it really, really helped our web, but what we noticed is we wanted to get our content out as fast as we could, is that we were almost hurting ourselves because we were giving it to everybody.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And to those of you that are talking about typos, do you guys know about Grammarly? Do you install that?
I have it. Yeah.
It's a lifesaver, is it
Yeah.
not?
I use it.
And you can integrate it with Google Docs now.
Yeah. It's
So-
called Grammarly. It's an app that you can use.
You can install it on your desktop and it'll edit your content in real time. It saves
Yeah.
a lot of typos in my emails.
Yeah.
A Chrome extension.
Yeah.
Plug-in.
It's a plugin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys think it's a lifesaver?
Yeah.
You're like, yes. So that's a good tool. As you're listing these other tools, what other tools would you recommend that they use?
Well, I think that the whole thing about content creation becomes really important. And so from a standpoint of any kind of a tool that you have that can help you edit, that can also help you really kind of define what you're writing, it becomes really important. So, yes.
One app I use online is the Hemingway app,
Uh-huh.
and it just helps your voice not dumb it down,
Right.
make it more relatable to your audience.
Uh-huh. So sometimes you have a tendency to kind of talk over the top of people, or maybe we call that shop talk, or right, and so this idea of like, I hate to say it, but to make it maybe pedestrian, a little more pedestrian, or simplify it, because sometimes we have a tendency to use we're in a certain industry, and maybe we're trying to talk to people outside of our industry, but we use those terms that become really simple for us to use because we just use them every day, and we find out that other people don't know or don't recognize those terms, or they don't relate to them. And so I was trying to think of any other apps that would be good.
Well, I think the Hemingway one is a great one because it tells you the reading level. So the reading level that you should be at is what, like 6th to 8th grade reading level? And when I was originally writing content, it was like grade 12. And I'm like, oh, wow, I gotta cut down some paragraphs.
You gotta
and
dumb
change
it
some
down.
Structure.
Yeah.
And it helps a lot. So
Yeah.
that's a great one.
Yeah. So here's the other thing you got to do. So after you write a great article, you got to tell people about it, right? So how many people here are like building email lists? Do you have email lists? Hold your hand up. Let me see them. So you guys got email templates and email blasts and stuff like that. You're sending out and building those, and That's really important. So like every time you get a new story that's been you write a new story, you add something to that, to that Cornerstone content, you need to be pushing it out. You need to get out in front and keep that going, because people are going to come, right? The worst thing that can happen is your site gets static if you're not creating content, and then people come to it, they're going to quit coming if you don't keep turning it over. You got to turn it over. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It's exhausting. It really is.
It is.
I mean, it takes a lot of work. Everybody thinks it's easy.
A good average for a story on a website? What's a good word count? Anybody have an idea? Like, what do people want to read? 500? 750? I would say around 500. I mean, we're trying to do stories for some of our customers about around 400. Brevity is really important.
And that's for an article.
For an article.
How
Yeah.
important is
So
a
blog
picture
posts
with it?
are short. Extremely.
Extremely, yeah.
What was the question?
How important is a picture with the story? Let's
That's all
talk
they
about that
look
for
at.
a moment. So there's all kinds of evidence out there that talks about how visuals are more engaging, right? So a photo is all very important, I think that because most of us, even though we're talking about reading an article, we still are very visual. And so, I think that that's going to be the mechanism that will grab you probably first before even a headline probably would. Yeah.
Yeah, and this doesn't sound like a commercial for you, but that's exactly what we saw, is if we did graphics or interactive graphics or short videos, that for some reason the web crawlers picked up on it much faster than if we wrote something, but also people were more likely to share it.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes more interactive, and they would say, hey, you should, like for your example, if you were staging a house, how to stage a home,
Yeah.
if that were a video or an article, people are more likely to share the video.
Yeah. I saw a realtor do that where she was staging homes, and what was cool was she did like a high-speed video where she like videoed and then did it like fast forward, right? And she pulls up, they pull up, she's got her own box truck and her own trailer and everything, and she actually goes in, the house is empty, and she goes in and they stage the whole darn thing, right? It shows them hauling all this stuff in and hanging everything up and everything. But it was just really cool because it real quickly showed the amount of effort that she went to sell that house, right? And it said a lot, and it was a fun way to do it. Because, I mean, you don't want to sit there for an hour and a half watching them, oh, there goes another sofa, there goes another table, but they just did it really quick, and it was just really cool. And it takes a lot of effort to do that, doesn't it? I mean, it's overwhelming, man. But that was like part of what her service was to her, the kind of work that she would do for people. The work ethic, right? The promise that she's going to sell your house. And so that's pretty cool. But yeah, did anybody else have a question? Yeah.
Does anybody in the room have a good site to find inexpensive stock photos then? Because we need photos.
Yeah.
Pexels.com has free stock photos.
Oh, yeah?
And they're high quality.
My
Paxson?
friend just had his website, he created like, I think 25 different sites for free images. So I can send that to Kate if you want to send it in your follow-up email, and it lets you filter on based what you're looking for.
Cool.
So I can send that out. I can send that to Kate.
So you have to be careful about stock photos. Let's talk about that for just a moment.
Just like before you send the link.
I'm all for stock photos. Be careful about when you're talking to your customers, or you're talking to a dedicated audience of some kind.
the toaster on.
That they, sometimes they'll be offended if there's you're using people or you're using images that they don't know who they are, right? So it just depends on the situation. Just like if you're living in Indiana and you're using a stock photo and it's from a different region, and it clearly isn't Indiana. Think about,
Palm tree doesn't belong there.
think about the content in the photo, right? Make sure it's appropriate. It's really important.
That's a great point.
Yeah, because I see that a lot. Where they don't align. Yeah.
Go back to keywords.
Yeah.
I'm with Common and Associates, so we've got tax season coming up.
Yeah.
And I know that there's been, extensive changes for the season coming up.
Right.
So my suggestion was, put something about there, what's changed, plus, a link to the IRS site,
Uh-huh.
and using that together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important, but still your keywords are describing what your services are, like what your areas of expertise are. So as me, as a consumer, or someone who would want to interact with you, I want to know like what kinds of things you do. So to see if I can fit in there, like if you could actually help me with whatever I would need. So I want to know what those things are. And then, then you start to write and build stories around those keywords that can also be those pillar stories, which then is like those how-tos, or, take that position of being the expert, right? And try to teach with it, give people advice. Yeah, well, I got 5 minutes, you don't have a question? Yeah. That's too bad, because we still got to talk about landing pages.
5 minutes.
All right. Okay, anything else? Want to see some landing, talk about some landing pages? Well, how about a commercial first? You guys see this is my favorite commercial. My favorite holiday commercial is coming up. Are you ready for it? What do you think it is?
The Coca-Cola affairs.
Well, that was a tough one. That was a good one, but that's not it. Okay, here it is. Ready?
Oh, we gotta go
It was
back.
so fast.
That was fast.
That's good.
It was subliminal, yeah.
Time to eat.
Watch the tree in the background.
The tree side.
I love that commercial. humor's great. That's one of those commercials I wish I had done, right? So that's pretty fun. Okay, so let's real quick. Let's talk about landing pages real fast, okay? So what do you know about a landing page? Anybody here ever use a landing page?
Everybody needs one.
Okay, so we have some people who have used them. And why a landing page? First of all, when do you use a landing page? Primarily, when do you use one?
We do it when we're promoting material and trying to get calls to action so we can generate its leads.
Right. So there's two different kinds of landing pages that I'm going to talk about today. One is a lead generation, and one is what we call click-through. Click-through is if you have an e-commerce site. A lead generation is what you're talking about. So two kind of primary landing pages. Landing pages are really good when you do digital advertising. So you want to use a landing page when you want engagement. When you want engagement, and let's say you've run some digital ads, and you are now going to pull those people back, right? So because you always want a call to action, right? We always want a call to action. What's wrong with this bringing them back to your website? This here is illustrating it. You see the difference here? What's in orange? You see the orange? Those are all the live links. Those are all the potential places to click.
You get lost.
You get lost, you're distracted. People are like, well, I've got a web page. I'll bring them to the web page. They still have 18 or 20 choices once they get there. So we call that going down a rabbit hole, right? Will they pick the right one? You want to make sure they do. This landing page, how many links does it have? One. Right? So that's really important. So I want you to see the difference between, the website and the landing page. Sorry, I looked down my notes.
Question.
Yeah.
So is it better to have the landing page when someone visits the site or when they leave the site?
Well, like the landing page, the way I would use a landing page would be like when I have an ad that's out there, a digital ad, and I'm not going to take them to my site. I'm going to capture the data, so I'm going to take them to a landing page. Now there can be a link on the landing page where they can go onto your website. But what we're trying to do is capture the purpose is to either capture their data or send them, if it's an e-commerce, if we're going to do for e-commerce, we're going to have a call to action on there that's going to say buy or purchase, and it's going to send them directly to the e-commerce site, right? So this is kind of before they would get to your website. okay? So we want to increase our conversion rates when it comes to paid advertising. That's what we're talking about here, running digital ads. So that is really important. How much time do I have? About a couple minutes? So
Yeah.
always use a standalone page. Let's see here. So I want to just kind of show you like, this would be like a lead capture. So like when we're talking about like what you guys were talking about doing. This could also be like some other sub-stories that would be on there. Is that how you guys set yours up?
Yeah, we have multiple links. We may have 4 links,
Yeah.
but the main link is predominant. It's very large versus
Yeah.
the other links.
That's a video or a photo on the left up there. I'd recommend a video if you could get one. Video's much more engaging. We're seeing it all the time now. So I'm not trying to sell you all a video thing. It's much more engaging. And then the click-through idea we were talking about, same thing, though. We're doing some storytelling down here. We're doing like important relevant content up here on the right with a call to action. And then there's either a photo or a video there as well. And then there's a strong headline going across the top. That headline is repeated from your digital ad. It's being repeated here, okay? So that's important too. Okay, here, I'll try to pick it up. So these are just some things I wanted you to kind of see. If I had time, I'd kind of get more into this. So this is like, I was going to show you kind of the anatomy of a landing page and break it down. So this was some of the things that we were going to talk about. Actually, this thing goes longer, and there are more here, more stories. Because the idea is, this is kind of like the sales process. So you can go down through and engage this, and then the idea is we want them to get here to this call to action. But there's also this whole thing about kind of reinforcing the message, building the argument for why they should use your service or buy your product. Because they're at that moment of trying to make a decision, right? At that moment of trying to make a decision. So I thought this was just a really simple way to try to show you guys what that is. So which commercial did you like best? Did you like the Santa Claus on the Norelco, or did you like the Pizza Hut commercial? Pizza Hut. Yeah. That's the one I like too. I like them both. Food. Yeah. So you think that you could go back and optimize your websites? That's what we're talking about. Optimizing your website. How about that? Use your business name in it. Yeah. To try to be more SEO strategic. So 4 keywords. Think about them. And then create 12 articles. Just to have 12 good articles.
And those articles should use the keyword, that keyword within them a lot.
Multiple times. Absolutely. Because that's Google's tracking that. They're tracking it. Okay? Thanks for letting me come today.
Thank you.